we finished our discussion and our review on classical conditioning. Now we're going to introduce the concept of operant conditioning. So remember in our discussion earlier, Tate, we talked about how when we're discussing conditioning, we're discussing what are called the ABCs of behavior, right? The A, the B, and the C of behavior. B is the easiest one to remember. What does B stand for? Behavior. Yeah, maybe your behavior is bad, or if you're remembering something. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I dropped that one too, by the way.
So B is the behavior. A stands for what again? Antecedent. What does antecedent mean? Yeah, before, something that comes before behavior. And then C stands for consequence.
Why do you know that?
And that stands for after. So in the case of operant conditioning, we're focused on the B and the C. Now, a lot of people get confused on this because they start thinking like morals or like what they would want. So I want everybody to repeat after me. Say, think like math.
Think like math.
Everybody, think like math.
Think like that.
Think like math. Thank you. So, in operant conditioning, we have to remember what positive means, what negative means, what reinforcement means, and then what punishment means. So, identifying the type of operant conditioning we're seeing involves trying to figure out whether it's positive or negative, and whether it's reinforcement or punishment. So, what did I tell you to repeat after me? Think like math, okay? Not like morals. Not like morals. So, in the case of positive, positive in this instance means added to. So if positive means added to, what do you think negative means? Taken away. Now, in the case of reinforcement and punishment refers to, does that increase the likelihood of the behavior in the future, or does it decrease the likelihood of the behavior in the future? So again, remember, operant conditioning is the B and the C. You behave, you experience a consequence. If something is added to you, the consequence involves adding something to you, and that increases the likelihood that you're going to repeat this behavior in the future, it would be positive reinforcement. If you behave, something is taken away from you, and it increases the likelihood that you'll behave that way in the future, it's negative reinforcement, right? If you behave, and something is taken away from you, and it decreases the likelihood of your behavior in the future, what would it be? Did I say taken away or added in that scenario? I can't remember. Added. She came in and messed my flow up a little bit. Okay, so let me start over. If you behave, I add something to you, and then it decreases the likelihood of that behavior being repeated in the future. It'd be positive punishment, right? So again, you have to ask yourself, I behave, right? You're at home, and you say a swear word, right? And then your parents make you suck on a bar of soap for a while. It's kind of old school, but have you heard of that before? Yeah, bar of soap. Like the Christmas Story, right? When he says the mother of all bad words when he's changing the tire with his dad. Yeah, oh fudge. Where did you hear that word? It was the guy down the street, his friend, and then the mom calls and tells the neighbor lady, what? And she starts screaming. If you have not seen A Christmas Story, you have to watch A Christmas Story. It's great.
Watch it.
Watch it, it's good. No, it's not extra credit. So, who's seen that movie? Raise your hand. Do you like it? Is it good?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very funny. Okay, so again, operant conditioning, behavior, whatever it is. Let's take the example of Ralphie in The Christmas Story, right? He says the F word. His consequence is he has to put the soap in his mouth for a while, right?
Right.
So in that instance, she's added the nasty taste of the soap, and then it's going to decrease the chance that he's going to say the F word again in the future. So because of that, it would be positive punishment. Okay? So let's give you some examples. One more time again, operant conditioning. You behave first, then you have the consequence. What did I tell you to remember?
Think like math.
Think like math. Okay? So don't think like morals. If you start thinking like morals, you're going to be like, he has soap in his mouth, that's negative. No, it's added, right? Because it's added, it's positive. So, on your notes, draw out a little box, kind of like we did yesterday. So, and we're going to label this box using some of those concepts that I wrote over there. Positive, negative. What am I going to write up here? Increase, which is called reinforcement. And then decrease, which is called punishment. Good. So, let me give you some examples of these. And then when I give you different examples, I want you to explain why it would be positive punishment or reinforcement, negative punishment, whatever it is. Whatever I write in there, I want you to explain why it would fit in the scenario. So for this first example, I'm going to use the behavior of, or the goal behavior of getting good grades, okay? Okay? So in this case, positive reinforcement, get good grades, we add something. One example of that could be scholarships. Again, I'll have you explain why it would fit in a second with the person next to you. Okay, an example of positive punishment, let's say you get good grades, right? Positive punishment, in this instance, could be being picked on by a bully. Okay, we'll explain in a second. Okay, negative reinforcement, you get good grades, they take away finals. You remember when you used to have final test exemptions? Have you ever heard of that before at least? I don't think they've done it for a while. So you get good grades, they take away finals, okay? And then an example of something that's negative punishment. So let's say the behavior is you get good grades, right? Negative punishment, let's say you lose some friends. Okay? So these two are a little tricky, but if you talk through them, they make sense. Talk to the person next to you. In relationship to your behavior of getting good grades, why would scholarships be positive reinforcement? Why would taking away finals be negative reinforcement, and so on? Okay, go ahead and discuss.
Is in nature supposed to like prevent them from doing that same action? Like if you're getting good grades, always right, I'm not going to hold on good grades. Is that how you But with negative reinforcement, you're taking something away to do a good job. Punishment or you're adding something to take away some friends' behavior from happening.
Okay, let's break this down now. The behavior was you got good grades, right? You tell your friend, you're like, look at my report card, or your parents, or whoever else, right? You get good grades, okay? You apply for scholarships. Will getting good grades increase the likelihood that you get scholarships? Yeah. Will that encourage you to get good grades in the future? Yeah, because money is a pretty good reinforcer, right? So because of that, you've added the money, and it's going to increase the likelihood you'll get good grades in the future. You added something so it's positive. It increased the likelihood of this behavior being repeated, so it's reinforcement, right? Does that one make sense? That's pretty straightforward. Okay, let's do negative reinforcement. A lot of times, people mix up negative reinforcement and punishment because they're not thinking like math, right? They're thinking like morals. So in this case, taking away finals. You get good grades, and then the teachers put in a policy that says, hey, if you get straight A's, you don't have to take any finals, right? If you're at like an 88%, and you know, hypothetically, that if you got an A in whatever class that is, then they'll get rid of all the finals for you. Okay, but you have to have straight A's, right? It's an all or none thing. So if you, hypothetically in this scenario, you got 6 classes, you have 5 A's and 1 B, you gotta take all the finals in all your classes. But if you get 6 A's, you don't have any finals at all, right? So you're gonna push pretty hard to get an A in that one class, correct? So in that instance, you end up getting straight A's. They're like, congratulations, you don't have to take any finals at all. Is that going to increase the likelihood that you get good grades in the future? Yes, and they took something away, the finals. So because of that, it would be negative reinforcement, okay? Again, you get good grades, you're in class, you're like, look, I got good grades. And then some bully is like, nerd, and they punch you in the face, right? Say, bully's like, nerd, they punch you in the face, they're picking on you. You're like, I don't know if I want to work so hard because Ralph, or actually in the Christmas story, isn't it the Farkases? Isn't that the names of the bullies? Because doesn't he reflect like Farkas? What a horrible name. The bullies that pick on him. So the Farkases are picking on you, whatever those guys are. If that's continually happening, is that going to decrease the likelihood that you'll get good grades?
Yes.
Or at least talk about it, right? So they're adding picking on you, and it's going to decrease the likelihood you get good grades. So technically, that's going to be positive punishment, right? You look confused.
Kind of.
Okay, why?
How would you positive?
They're adding getting picked on, the bully like giving you a swirly or a
Yeah.
noogie or what do they call it
A
when
wedgie?
Wedgie, there you go, whatever, okay? They're adding stuff that would decrease the likelihood that you're gonna get good grades in the future, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And then let's say that you run with a crowd of friends that thinks school is dumb or whatever, you're like, hey, I got a bunch of good grades, and they're like, well, you're an idiot, we're not gonna hang out with you anymore, right? So they quit hanging out with you, you've lost some friends, and you really like them, right? They had some problems and maybe they smelled a little bit, but you know, you were close to them. So that's going to decrease the likelihood that you would want to get good grades in the future. Sometimes it seems a little counterintuitive in this example, right? But I wanted to use the same behavior for each scenario to show you how it works. Okay? All right, what I want you to do now is come up with some examples. Doesn't have to be the same behavior, could be unique behavior in each one. Give me an example of positive punishment, negative punishment, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. And then we'll talk about it. Go ahead.
Okay.